Oh, what's up, demons and demonettes? Tis I, Atraxi, Demon Queen, and today I want to talk to you about this guy. That's right, it's Lucca. But before we get into it, as always, toss a like and subscribe down below. Alright, so let's go ahead. We're going to cover his abilities. As you can see, I went as high as Paragon 1, and I did end up plus 15ing his EX weapon, just kind of like see how he performed a little bit at a higher end. So this is his alt quick slam. When targeting an adjacent enemy, Lucca knocks them into the air, and then slams them down into place. When the target and an enemy are located closer to his ally backline, Lucca will rush them and slam them back to his original tile. The slam deals some damage to the target adjacent enemies, and it stuns them for 2 seconds. Alright, we have a Ruthless Ram here. Lucca gains a shield that absorbs up to equal to 340% plus 3 skill power of his physical defense plus 340% plus 3% of his magical defense for 8 seconds. So he gains a really big shield. He also deals a little bit of damage and interrupts the enemy and disarms them for 4 seconds. Whatever disarming is, it's not explained here. I'm gonna guess it makes them drop their weapon so that they do less damage or can't use skills. Not sure. Courageous Call. Lucca unleashes a fierce roar, removing all dispellable debuffs from himself and reducing damage taken by 25% plus skill power for the next 5 seconds. This can be used while he's under dispellable control effects. So say like you're fighting the Teleweeds on a Teleweed stage, he could use it when he's up in the air, or potentially maybe against like I believe he can dispel Odie's thing in Arena. Anyway, his hero focus just adds XP. And then his this is his EX weapon. Now I did pump it up to 15 to give him a little bit more survivability and stats when testing him for Arena against higher heroes, but you don't really need like a huge investment in here. Probably just the +5 is fine. And then here, Lucca maintains a solid fighting stance, remaining steadfast. This is important to remember because I forgot this, and we'll go over what happened when I did forget this. For each ally placed in an adjacent tile behind him when the battle starts, right? So you wanna, that's why we want to stack up heroes behind him. I'll show you that later in stages. He gains a shield of 220%, and then he increases their attack by 5%. So he kind of buffs similar to how like Dun buffs, right? And then level 3, if there are at least 2 allies placed to support Lucca, expands this ram to become a tile. It doesn't really help much. And then here, Lucca recovers 15% when cast, so he gives a little bit of a self-heal. Right, so let's go. We're gonna go check out stages first, because this is one of the areas where people really thought he could shine. So, I mean, I can't think of a better unit to fit him in than the Lightbearer unit for stage pushing, right? So normally we would have Lucius, some combination of Haywin, someone else, Rowan, and Tassie, right? So you kind of have these core 3. Maybe you might have a Faye in there, Walker, Sinbad. Just on this stage, the record has them using Atlanta, so we're just going to stay with the record. We're not going to try to reinvent the wheel here. What we are going to do is we are going to sub Lucca for Lucius.
Time to tear him apart.
Alright. So the reason or why we have to move Atlanta in from the side versus how we originally had it is because we want to get Lucca his max shield, right? Because he gets it then from Haywin, and then he gets it from Atlanta, and we can't really move Rowan or Tassie into any of this column here because we need them to get the Lightbearer buffs, and we need Tassie to get Resonator. So without further ado, let's see it in action. So there's his knock-up. So we're actually just going to speed it up. As you can see, he gets a really big shield, especially with EX15 weapon, because then he does get 260%. So he can, I will say one thing, he can take a beating. This one takes a while. Alright, so there you have it. You see him in stages. However, we're going to back out. Now, I already have my Lucius built up. Right, Lucius is Paragon 2. Now it's worth noting that my Lucius is only plus 5, and I may want to push him up a little bit higher at this point. But let's see the same squad that was used in the record in action. For comparison purposes. And we got the stage without Lucca. Huh. Alright, so I would say on stages, he's maybe on par. Maybe Lucius is a 1A and Lucca's 1B. Okay. So would I pull Lucca over Lucius? No, because Lucius you can use in battle drills at least. He's going to be applicable when we have the Golem battle drill, and you need Lucius for that fight. Whereas Luke is going to have a shield on that fight. Well, so we just mentioned bosses, so let's check out a boss fight. Let's go to, I don't know, Dream Realm, and I'll show you where I tested Lucca. Alright, so here you have the number 1 formation. I had to run a slightly different formation, right? Because the idea was I wanted to give out the maximum buff here with Lucca. We did 49 billion. And the max score, well, the baseline I ran was 57. 8 billion less. Huh. Let's see what Lucca does. Alright. He does 1.2 billion damage on the boss. This was when I tested him at plus 5. We're not correct because he's going to have less attack. He did 1.25. Freyasto here does 24. And Smokey does 11. Now here we did replace him for Shakir. So let's see what happens here. Oh. Freyasto did 28 billion. Smokey did 14 billion. Oh. And Shakir did 6.4 billion, so 5 billion more than Lucca. Huh. Alright. So maybe he's not a Dream Realm character, right? We have other characters that are really good, at stages and, like arena, like Almas. Almas was really, right? He was pivotal at stages. Tassie, you know, she kind of has a new meta, at least for this season, around her, right? She made that light bearer meta kind of possible, right? So it kind of like mixed things up, really kind of changed up stage pushing. You know, she's fairly decent in arena, whereas like Lucca. Okay, so I mean, I cleared my towers. I did it with Lucca. I could have done it with Lucius. Let's talk about arena next. Alright, so here's where we did some testing with Lucca. I went up, I ran against the same squad a few times. Here we did it with the +5, Supreme Plus, right? We got through the stage. This is a toughie. P4 Lily May really saves the day on the stage, as you can see. Lucca doesn't absorb. He absorbs an okay amount of damage, but he does like no damage. So let's see it in action. So you see he takes more than 50% damage there from Thorn's swing. It's worth noting that this Thorn is P1 plus 15. Right, and it's really Lily May who saves the day there. Alright, so do we have some additional testing? Oh, no, that's when I tested it with a different squad, and I had a much easier time beating it with that squad. We didn't test him there because he wouldn't beat Dundio. Oh, we tested him, here. So here's a one test against a P1 Thorin with Lucca, but we kind of just shred the team. I did fight them again. Right, so here he absorbs a truck ton more of damage than Thorn, but he doesn't really, as you can see, he doesn't deal all that much damage compared to, say, Thorin. So who would I rather have on my team here? Thorin, but let's see it in action where he is a little bit more beefy. He doesn't live the whole fight, and again, it's Lily May that really comes up big once more and saves the day. But if we go where I ran it against them with this squad here, when we used Freyasto over him, well, it's a lot easier, right? And I go against this team on my second account all the time. That's why I ran with Freyasto, Tassie, Lily May, and Scarlita with Damien and this squad. He usually beats this squad pretty easy when they're even. It's usually Mimi wins like 90% of the time, but we got a pretty easy win there. No stress, nobody dies, and no last minute saves by Lily May. Huh. Alright. I mean, though that's arena, that's stages. Well, okay, but what about Supreme Arena? Well, Supreme Arena, we need 3 teams, right? So here I tested him out. Obviously, you know, hey, I beat the this Tassie Tailing team. I go up against this one a lot. I see in a regular arena, people are running it in their mid-tier defenses. Maybe towards the higher end on older servers, or maybe a mid-tier on regular servers. But I just used Dundio to beat it, right? Because it cancels out your Tassie, it cancels out your Tailene. So it left a hole here. I ran God Comp against this. It didn't work out too well. Or alright, whatever. God Comp isn't the greatest. Oh no, this their God. Oh, I ran my Mauler squad, and for whatever reason, it didn't beat the God Comp. Even though I ran the same thing, and they ran the same thing against me, and there's one. Whatever, that's just RNG being a little bitch. Here, I didn't really know what to run. I threw kind of like a hodgepodge squad. So you could see, he takes a beating in here, and the idea was to buff Freyasto, but he does take a beating. So like I said, he can take a punch, but he's not like a Thorin who's going to deal a bunch of damage, right? So even here, Thorin took 29 billion in damage, but he dealt out 4.4, right? He took 27, he only did 6. So I had to go back in, and so I got a win. I just changed up my teams. I just mirrored it because my team is stronger than their team. So I just, I did the mirror trick. Hey, you're stronger. You're far stronger. Right, I have 35, they have 36. I ran with Valor Shield. It worked better for me. Right, they have only P1 plus 10 Seth. I have P4 plus 15 Seth. Tamisi is about the same. My Mikkola's a little bit stronger, right? So we just kind of like mirrored it and beat it that way. Not my favorite way to win, the least creative, but Lucca didn't do much. And maybe we didn't have the best team. Maybe these aren't the best maps, right? Because that third map, you have the 3 tile. There's not really a good, like, this map's not good for Lucca. He can't get his max bonus. This one's okay for Lucca. And this one is, you know, another one where he can use his max, but you're limited into where he can be set up. Maybe he could be decent in some sort of stall team. But I don't know. There's 50 million stall teams out there already that do it better. So I'll say this. When I was looking at my roster, and I was in Arena, I kept going back to the same thing. And that same thing is like, well, I could do it with this hero. I could do it with this hero. I could do it with that hero, right? It's not needed. Now, where would I rank him? On a power level, I would rank him as the same as, like, Lucius. Maybe Lucius is 1A and Lucca's 1B, but I just don't see Lucca having the advantage in battle drills because he just, the defense is there, but Lucius shields the whole team, and when we use Lucius for battle drill, it's for his shielding, right? He has one job, and he does it. In stages, he acts as the tank. He shields everybody, so he's kind of like a secondary, so he's primary tank, secondary support, right? Because he does do shielding. He does do a little bit of a heal. Lucca just has a knock-up. That he just has a 1 hero knock-up and shields himself. So like I said, I saw 0 impact on stages. I felt like he was a downgrade when it came to Arena. He has apparently no use in a Dream Realm, at least at the top right. I mean, there's probably several other different heroes I could have run in there and easily got a better score versus Lucca. I mean, I did make the dumb move of testing him on Shellbrute, and, well, we only did 47 billion. Now, I figured, oh, I could stack him up. I could maybe give a Freyasto copy an extra buff, a Shakir an extra buff. They would do extra damage, but I forgot he's steadfast. And this is what happened when I ran him on Shellbrute. He gets eaten first and immediately dies because he's steadfast, and Shellbrute executes any hero that is unaffected or steadfast when he eats them. So he's not viable on Shellbrute. Not that, I mean, you could run Lucius on Shellbrute if you wanted to. If you were doing some kind of light bearer team, I mean, like I said, there's better options. So when I just look at Lucca, I mean, what do I think? I rate him a must swap, right? I built him up. I got him to Paragon 1. I got roped into pushing him to plus 15. You know, we were on stream. We were testing him out. We wanted to see how he did at that higher end. But we have these tickets coming up, right? So we're going to get one of these tickets this weekend, right? The A tier swap. And we know that we're getting, they already announced it, we're already getting Bonnie at some point during this season. So once we get Bonnie, then we should be set to go to swap to Bonnie. So we'll have an instant P1 plus 15 Bonnie waiting for us, and hoping that Bonnie is a little bit more useful, which I think she will be, than Lucca. So where would I rate him on the spectrum? I would say if you did not pull him, you can easily skip this hero. If you did pull him like me and you invested in him, you know, consider him for your swap. that's where we're going to want to use him. Um, because he adds nothing to the roster. When I look at new heroes, and we'll talk about quantity versus quality, right? So when I say quality hero, who's a quality hero that they added into the game? Obviously, Lily May, right? She's the best hero that they've added in the game. She's the best hero in the game at the moment. Freesto is an amazing hero. You see how good he is on stages in PvE content. You see how amazing he is. He just runs everything in Endless. He was fantastic last season in Endless. He was used on almost every boss. I think he's used on every boss this season. You have Mikola, right? She was 6 of 6 last season, and she's used on every boss in Dream Realm this season. She's used a lot on the Primal Lord, right? She used on Shellbrute. And prior to the Graveborn comp, we used a Mikola on Plague Creeper. She's used a lot in Relentless Rumble. You can use her in PvP. One of my top PvP teams uses Mikola. One of my other ones uses Freesto. All amazing characters. These are top tier must-have characters. Tayleen's up there, right? You saw how she did in Pre-Endless. Almost, he changed the game completely, at least in Song of Strife, for the manual process and pushing stages there. Everybody who didn't pull for him last season and didn't have him at least Mythic Plus at the beginning of this season instantly regretted it because they weren't able to easily push stages at the beginning of the season and quickly fell behind in power, which affects your Dream Realm rankings, which affects your ability to progress in things like Supreme Arena, affects your scores on Primal Lords, all that stuff, right? So stage pushing, that's important. Now, with the introduction of Lily May and Dun, there's kind of been like a hole because, right, Control kind of dropped off the map in Arena. I felt like with Nara, she added a utility that we could create a team focused around Nara in isolation. So, Friesto, Nara, Burial, Ludovic, Done, right? That's probably my second team, right? That's like my number 2 team. That's fantastic for your Supreme Arena. It really fills in that void that was left when Control dropped off, and then we just kind of run the Mauler comp stomp in Arena, right? So it's going to be like a Shakir, a Seth, or Lenya, Mikola, I run Lily May with it, and Tamicia, right? So we get our 3 bonus. From the others, I could run like a Coco, I could run like a Brutus, right, to get the faction bonus if I was gonna stick in Lenya, or I could run an Elsa. There's just a lot of flexibility with the comp. It's just right, it just really works really well with Shakir and Seth, and we have our Seth built up, right? So we kind of have our Supreme Arena teams set. Lucca's not filling a void there. We're not creating a new comp around him. With Tassie, we created a new stage pushing comp, right? There's the whole Lightbearer, double alt, Tassie, Lightbearer control comp that's just kind of like stall until Tassie can get her alt off and then just continuously alt as she burns down the enemies and puts them in a control state. Lucca, he brings nothing new to the table, right? So it's not necessarily that he's a bad hero overall. He's just not bringing anything different. He's not different than. He's not better than. He's not less than, right? It's already like if you have a socket wrench and you're like, oh, there's another socket wrench and it has a slightly different grip. Do I really need another socket wrench? No, you don't need 2 of the same tool, for the most part, especially in this game. So he doesn't add anything new. I don't see replacing any of the units in anything that I run, right? So for like Arena, I don't see replacing like a Tamicia with Lucca, right? Because Tamicia has that extra layer of control, she moves around, She has a little bit of a self heal. She's just kind of a pain in the ass to deal with. In general, she's a really good arena hero. You see her in stage pushing with the control comp on the standard stages where you're running your Omas, Aaron, Carolina, Arden, Temesia, that type of group. I don't see Luke is not gonna pop in there. I don't see him working out there, right? Because then now you're putting Lucca maybe in front or to the side, and you're replacing him with Temesia. Temesia offers more control when she does her stomp and runs over enemies versus Lucca, who's targeting one enemy, right? So overall, Temesia is going to be better. She's better suited to fight enemies like Thorin, like Shakir in those stages. He's just not better than. And from like, that's why I say like, we need someone who's either better than or is different than, and he's none of those, right? So he doesn't offer anything to the roster that we don't already have. Now, I said the only time I might pull for him is if I have a new account and he is the banner. I may pull for him over Lucius because I think they're about kind of on par with each other. But Lucius, you're going to want to have for those battle drill bosses. You don't need a lot of copies. You don't need like a heavy investment in Lucius. I mean, if you had him at +5 S+, I think that's fine for stage pushing. I have not had a problem with him like this. You know, he's not that great of a hero. I don't, I do have a big account. I do invest heavy in some heroes, but other heroes, if I just don't see the value, I just don't really build them up. Because I'm just not going to waste the resources on those heroes. I'm going to save them for somebody better, or if, somebody, like, moves up. So, say, like, Parisa, I had at, like, +5. She really started to show up, so we pushed her to +10. Right? We pushed the +10 when we were using her in the original Gaunt comp before we had Burial built up. Brian, right, we pushed up to +10 when we tried to still get control to work. But then now we have better options, so we don't really need to do that. Igor, we use every once in a while, so we pushed him to +10. Brutus is the same way. Kruger, he has his uses on bosses and pre-endless. The grannies at 10, right? These are all heroes that I use every once in a while, but like your Neros, your Viperians, I just leave them at +5. Maybe I use them once in a blue moon. Crystal Clash comes to mind. But, I mean, with Crystal Clash, I don't even see Lucca being that huge of a factor. So, overall, I rate him as a, somebody put it best, must swap. So like I said, he's swap bait for Bonnie. Otherwise, if you're not planning to do that, you could simply pass on him. But if you do want to test him out, we do get the swap ticket, so you can swap him off to a Bonnie. If you didn't build Sinbad and you regret not building Sinbad, you can build him up now and then swap him off for like Sinbad at the point in which we get the ticket. And that's it for this one. Happy trails, and I will catch you next time. Bye!